my father's house there are many mansions. Well, undoubtedly, the lad Winston would have one just for him. The first clue is Winston Saville seems to take you in one direction, and then Coetzer takes you in a completely different direction. That was just one clue. He was an extraordinary fellow. There are two adjectives beginning with E that I thought of in bed this morning, which none of you was really expecting to hear even one of them when you got out of bed this morning, never mind both of them. And the two adjectives are effervescent and ebullient. Now, effervescent we all know because of the fizzing of champagne and gin and tonic and effervescent. Ebullient just means you consider that today is going to be another wonderful day and you embrace it with ebullient, positive energy. And that was Winston to a T. He was a marvellous fellow. We are all very, very lucky and privileged to have met him. Obviously, we get great condolences to Wendy and to Wendy's two sons, the marvellous Warren and Tyrone. And thank you all again very much for coming here. My job is purely to do an MC job and to introduce a few people, but I do just want to mention that I first met Winston Coetzer in 1977. I was a 24-year-old shit posted from Jardie Masson and Company to be in South Africa, and we quickly established a loving of backgammon and racing in common. So this 38-year-old was playing with a 24-year-old a bit of backgammon and inviting me up to the races. You probably all remember that he was a very, very well-regarded steward of Germiston Racecourse, along with the great Michael Carey, and he owned marvellous racehorses like Topper Inca, trained by Russell Laird. You probably remember all these things. Anyway, that's how I first met him. I mean, it's come to think of it, it's 1 year short of being 50 years ago. So it's 49 years ago. And he obviously had then a first-time round wife, or maybe second time round, I'm not quite sure, called Jenny Gay, who I met a lot. Ah, Jenny Gay, hello, how are you? Okay. And then you all know very well his final wife, who was with him to the end in his magnificent apartment right here in Dolphin Beach. And even to the very end, he continued with great enthusiasm as usual. And when I told a friend of mine, Garth Collins, who I can't see here at the moment, but when I told him that Winston Coetzer was expected to die in a few days' time, he said, good heavens, I saw him 3 weeks ago. He was in top form. So I think he went from being very alive to being very dead very quickly. And that's probably a good formula for all of us, actually. I think it's good to continue to be happy and active right until the end. Okay, so the sons are obviously going to be speaking, and I haven't been given a definitive order as to who should go first, but let us start with the lad, Tyrone. Tyrone, are you going to go first?
I'm not going to go first.
You're not going to go first.
I'm not going to say a speech myself because I'll be in tears the whole day, but I do have a few people that I have sent a few messages and a few emails just for Winston. Just bear with me for one moment while I get them. Got it. So I've got one tribute here from Joe Berlin. Many stories have been shared about Winston. The boss, the colleague, the partner, the friend, the godfather, the grandfather, and the stepdad. Each one reflects a remarkable man was and many lives he touched. My story is just one of many, but here to share the lifelong memories my brothers, sisters, and I have of Winston. I met Winston around 1985 when I was 6 years old. Over 40 years later, he remains one of those rare people I simply don't remember life without. Every festive season, plans for our Wild Coast holidays would include Winston and company. We never quite knew when he would arrive or when he would leave, but when he did, the energy filled instantly. Fun, laughter, celebrations followed him wherever he went. I remember when he first brought Wendy and friends along. Perhaps the promise of luxury, only then to wake up to the raw beauty of the Wild Coast sun. No electricity, cold shower, and simple living. But Winston loved it, and soon so did everyone else. He kept spirits high, always with his smile, cigar in hand, and drinks nearby. Winston never shied from a bet. He and my dad started an annual New Year's Day beach soccer match, raising funds offered, doubling the prizes himself. Just one example of his generosity. The locals usually won thanks to the skills and less New Year's fatigue. He taught me games like backgammon, chess, poker, and canister, always turning them into fun, friendly wages. I'm deeply sorry I cannot be there today, but I know Winston would understand me being away with my son on a sporting tour. To Wendy, Warren, Ty, and the family, hold on to this traditions, take the bet, roll the dice, and keep your spirits alive. With love and strength to you all, Joe Berlin. Then this was a tribute from John Baker. The first time I saw Winston in operation at work, it was at Make Whoopee with Winston, weekend at Missouri Holiday Inn. It was a blast. The talk the morning was only about who lost most of the night before. The winning answer was nobody. Remembers the name of whoever came second. That show showed a large aspect of his life. Have fun whenever you do. More sincerely, he was a great, generous person, always ready to help close family and friends. I remember Winnie saying a few years ago that if she asked Winston for money while he was watching the horse racing on TV, and she said it was pocket money, he would say no. But if she said she wanted to place a bet on a horse, it was no problem. Recently, we started meeting regularly at our local restaurants to discuss stock markets over a large bowl of ice cream and chocolate sauce. So, Winston, rest well wherever you may be, shining down the financial fortunes, and keep the ice cream cold. Robin Taylor, one of Winston Coetzer's toys, keeps running around in my head. Over the past days, Missouri about 1972, Winston arranged a number of vehicles, gathering some big players off the tables and a few staff members, and we all rolled up to the mountains to Tatenberg, so I don't know how to pronounce that. On arrival, everyone ordered their different drinks, cocktails, beers, wines, G&T, spirits, etc., with Winston's instructions that no one was to start their drink. Then he took all their drinks, tipped them into a champagne bucket, and poured us each up a glass. The hijinks that follow the unmentionable, but can still see the male staff members on the impressive costumes doing fairy dances through the streets of the Blue Mountain Inn. Then there was one from Annie Lawson. Sorry, Winnie, thanks for the incredible journey, friendships, love of the many years. Your legacy will live on forever in the hearts, as will the memories. Fly high with the angels where you belong. It was a privilege knowing you. Rest in peace. Then I've just got one more here from his sister Marion. Just bear with me for one moment. Winston, Winnie Pooh, but to me, he's my Wheatie. From my childhood, he terrorized me and my dolls, namely Wendy, hiding her, pulling her hair out, and all the rest. Well, it so happens that he won the Wendy battle with his own live blonde Wendy, to whom he loved dearest to the end. However, he never failed to terrorize the two of us from time to time with his dogmatic and his messy ways. What a hell of a man, my icon. The pleasure he has given me traveling across the countries with him, above all the cares and love that he had for me. As a young man, having been in a boys' home, 16 or so, just out of school, he worked for Standard Bank, and I was also in a girls' home with no support. And on his merely salary, he bought me ballet shoes, never forgotten. He had a natural flair to figure out to figures. He had a natural flair for figures, and was snapped up by the Thorntons Transport and their chief accountant. The rest is history in the casino world, where he was highly respected, admired, loved for his enormous zest for life. Magnificent mensch.
Thank you very much indeed. And now I think we must ask the other brother. Yes. Well done.
Okay, guys, I put something together this morning with a little help of ChatGPT, so let's see what we do here. Okay. From Le Pam, with whispers of French royalty in his blood, a story he carries with a certain confidence. And if you've met him, you'd know that he had no interest in acting like royalty. No polished airs, no careful distance, no sitting quietly on the sideline of life. He lived it thick. He lived thick. He was thick in it. A stubborn man rooted in finance, chasing you up with a credit card statement, precise, particular, always on it. To pipe tobacco in the air, a bet being placed on the Durban July, or a rugby fixture, backed with intense and a confidence like he knew something you didn't. Trips to Presley Bay, fishing, beach cricket, and good company, and always, and somewhere in between, in the kitchen, cooking up something new, like squid heads, trap, whether you were ready or not, you got it. And if there was a backgammon board nearby, well, you weren't getting away without a game. He didn't follow tradition, he followed conviction. Always unmistakably his way. In business, he built boldly casinos in Missouri with Holiday Inn, where many stories live. Trillion Studios, the pubs, where he continued to impact lives, always honest, always fair, but beyond that, there was a man who loved, a woman's man, in his own way, from Mary Lou, his first kiss, through marriages and the stories in between. But at his core was his family. He was a grandpa, an uncle, a father, a husband, a rock. He loved his desserts, sweets for the kids, small things that meant more than they showed. And at the center of it all, he's putting Wendy by his side right till the very end. He had presence, real presence, the kind that you don't replace, the kind that fills a room and long after leaves an echo behind.
Well spoken, both of the brothers. And I never heard this business about any relationship with French royalty. I would think of him in a new way. Winston Saville Coetzer. Extraordinaire. Right, the next person that I'm going to call up to speak is his old mate from the Eastern Cape, Clive Berlin. Clive Berlin, here you are. Clive Berlin, thank you.
Nice to see you. Good to see you. Gerald, thank you for that. My association with Winston goes back to 1979. Those were heady days in Transkei. We were building the Wild Coast Holiday Inn, the development corporation that I worked for. We're partners in that Holiday Inn, which is now the Wild Coast Sun. And I was the link person. And I remember clearly going to the first site meeting. It was basically on a caravan on a very wet, muddy patch. And I arrived there, and this guy came out in quite a colorful shirt, big cigar. And I was introduced to him, and I thought it was Willem. So I was calling him Willem, and we were going through the meeting, and eventually he stopped. He said, "Listen, it's not Willem, it's Winston." Okay. And so it started. We eventually opened the Wild Coast Holiday Inn, if I recall correctly, 1981, 82. And Winston, by this stage, we'd been invited him down to Presley Bay, which was our holiday coast on the Wild Coast. And it was always a lottery, because you never knew with Winston, as it was said, when he would arrive and how many. So we'd always have a couple of spare rooms, and he would arrive, and normally in a hired combi, and we'd open, and the wine bottles would fall out first, and then Winston with whoever the entourage was. And so it went. Jenny Gay was there, and later Wendy and Tyron and Warren were there, and right to the end. And I've got lovely memories. I think the soccer games have been mentioned. Winston was always betting all over the place, sitting there with a tray of oysters, a cigar, and a glass of wine, really enjoying himself. And I personally credit Winston, because I was a corporate man. I wanted the cold comfort of a pension and a medical aid and group life cover and the company car allowance and everything else like that. And I recall Winston always saying, "Come on, get out, back yourself, get out, back yourself." No, Winston, I want the security. I'm sold my soul to the company store type of affair. And one night at Presley's, Winston sat me down, took a bottle of whiskey, and it was Chivas Regal, you can remember that, threw the bloody top away and said, "Right, let's talk." By the time it got to be half finished, he'd convinced me I could live without a pension and medical aid and arrange it myself with my own company. And by the time the bottle was finished, he had convinced me. And in my life, the rest is history. He carried on with that theme, and we certainly remained in touch. And I was fortunate to spend a couple of days with him early on this year when he was still fine, and we went to a lovely walk on the beach here. So, my friend, rest in peace and fly well. Thank you. Thanks, Gerald.
Thank you very much indeed, Clive. And the next person to speak is a very good and old friend of both Winston and myself, and for many years running the Maseru Holiday Inn under Winston's wise leadership, Tommy Kai, over from England.
Hello. As Gerald said, I met Winston a long time back. I was hired by the Holiday Inns, and being a curious man, I looked at the directors' names, and Winston Saville Coetzer. Again, as Gerald said, to me, that was unusual, strange, and even quirky. So I wanted to meet the man, but a year later, I was transferred to Maseru Holiday Inns, and that's where my history with Winston came about. He promoted me to be in charge of the region, and he made my business partner, who is now, they'll have a few words, the casino manager. And from then, we've progressed. But Winston has been in my life for a long time. We have business ventures in South Africa. We actually won 2 big licenses. And that was due to his ability and his persistence, but his ability to deal with the local population, to persuade them that we were going to be good people. Anyway, that was South Africa. Then there was Ghana. Both Wendy and Winston came about, and they ran, operated, and grew the business in Ghana. They said they had a good time. I hope they did have a good time. And thank you, Wendy. Anyway, but throughout this business venture and thing, over 50 years, I came to realize that not only was he eccentric, not only was he quirky, but he was also a very wise, acute businessman. Very, very venturesome. He would go into anything and he would ask questions. And above all, I think he was a good man, a good, genuine man, and I would like to thank him for that. But going back, just one incident, when he hired me as the manager in Maseru, and he pulled me into the office and he said, "Tommy, Gerald will be going to Swaziland and you are staying in Maseru." Now that was quite nice, but then I said to him, "Winston, Sun City has just opened, but with Saswana and Amabata opened. And you know they are fantastic businesses. They've taken away a lot of business. So what do you expect? And he smiled and he said, Tommy, in Hong Kong, there are more shops than people. Somebody must fact check that. And he says that the business people, the shopkeepers, have made a lot of money. So we expect you to do the same. And that has stayed with me most of my life. And I thank him for the chance that he gave to me, which I've persevered with, and it's been my life. Anyway, so that is where I remember Winston so well, giving people chances. And he wouldn't say chance, I think he said chance, right? And you remember all that. And I'm sure that John and I, who are now business partners, appreciate the efforts that Winston contributed. Graham will be reading a message from John, who is known as Butch. And for me, thank you very much, Winston. You've been great. Rest in peace. And, well, rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tommy. And I believe, Graham Bass, that you are now coming up here to read that piece. Would anybody else like to come up and talk about Winston? Okay, here is Graham coming. Well done, Graham. There's the microphone.
Thank you. Thanks, Tommy. As Tommy said, I'm going to read a short message, even though it looks a long one, from his partner, John Butch Robbins. Warren, you mentioned that a lot of stories from Maseru that haven't come out. Well, sorry, but here's one that's going to come out. John has said, in my mid-20s, just started working at the Holiday Inn Maseru. We were informed that the HI Holiday Inn directors were having a board meeting, and they all turned up in their smart green jackets, looking very professional and assured. I finished work about 4 a.m, as was the norm for a casino manager. Went to the staff pub for a couple of Amstels at Lance's Inn, where all the expat staff lived. As I walked in, I could hear this larger-than-life character playing darts, drinking heavily, and generally shouting the odds with the casino staff. I wonder who that could have been. On further investigation, I discovered this was one of the directors, one Winston Saville Coetzer, without his green jacket on, I can assure you. And then a jump of a few years, Winston headed up Cairo, SA with a team consisting of many grizzled industry veterans. And although Winston was MD, there is no doubt who the Santon office was really run by, i.e. the glamorous Wendy, handling all those men at that time. And then to sum up, boss, work colleague, business partner, and friend of hundreds of others over a 50-year period, Winston's business life was intertwined with ours, and we had everything from laughter and arguments and agreements and disagreements, but at the end of the day, it was a great adventure. And then a final word, the worst thing about those who pass, who were full of life, they can't be there to celebrate with you, but for sure, those who have gone before you, to name a few, such as John, Colin, and Brian, will be waiting in the great casino in the sky, along, no doubt, with plenty of others. Humba Kashley.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, while I let you all think of who else would like to get on their hind legs and come and take this microphone from me, I would just like to take up this challenge of mentioning a quick story about Maseru. And the situation is that the reason why I got the job of going to be MD of Maseru Casino Holiday Inn in 1989 was because there was a fellow called Tony Schussel, okay, an Austrian guy, and it's maybe indiscreet of me to mention his name, but For all I know, he may be dead. Certainly, he hasn't lived around South Africa for some considerable time. But anyway, Tony Schussel was obviously a randy stoat. And having kissed his wife goodnight, he then got in his car and he went off for a rendezvous with a girl from reception who lived in the location just 3 miles away. Anyway, while he was shagging the ass of patients, okay, he eventually came out 25 minutes later only to discover that his car had been nicked. Okay. Now, simultaneously, if we were doing this on television, there'd be a split screen, which would show Lambert, our redoubtable combi driver, who, for example, Tommy Kai will remember very well. Lambert had gone home, he walked back to the location, and he discovered in a random kind of a parking place his boss's car, his boss's marvellous BMW 520i had been stolen. So he thought, ha, 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 I'm too clever for him. So he walked back to Maseru, he got the key, he went back to the car, he drove it home and he parked it in Tony Schussel's place of honour outside the Maseru Casino Holiday Inn. He then went home to work, he went home and then he came to work the next morning, only to discover he was called into his boss's, Tony Schussel's office, and fired. And this is the most unjust firing ever, because he thought he was going to be a shoo-in for the Employee of the Month award, and he got fired. Okay, so anyway, the truth of the story is the reason why I was able to get the job to go to Maseru Casino Holiday Inn as MD in 1979 is because the job suddenly became vacant because Tony Schussel was fired by Winston Coetzer. So thank you very much, Winston, for doing that. And I'm happy to say that Lambert was indeed finally given the Employee of the Month award. And finally, a little bit after the due date, he was correctly recognized as the hero of the hour. Okay, anybody else would like to come up and have a word? Yeah, please come on up and take this microphone. Or do you want me to bring you the microphone? Marva's granddaughter. Is it Keisha? It's Keisha. Well done, Keisha. Here you are.
Oh, I'm going to try.
Try away.
Get this around. There we go. Hi, everyone. Before I go into what I wanted to say, just got a message from my dad in the UK, Colin Reader, who just says, wishing well to all the family, and Granddad had the most significant impact on his early years. I was going to wear my full tartan pajamas today, but the weather wasn't playing along. So, to everyone here today, families and friends, I think we can all agree on one thing. Winston didn't just live life, he tore through it, loudly and colourfully, with a laugh that arrived before he did and lingered long after. He was never just a person, he was a whole atmosphere. For me, he was the musty, cigar-soaked basement at 14 Garden Road and the mild terror of sleeping under that enormous marlin. He was the person that gave me a very important job of working behind the bar at age 9, paid exclusively in Coca-Cola. He was the rolls of 2 rand coins that somehow turned into freedom sweets and a bit of chaos with Warrior and Ty at the check-in in Norwood. He was the smell of a sauna when we sat in there for hours. He was the sound of that unmistakable flamboyant laugh and the man in tartan pants who somehow pulled it off. He was hugs that swallowed you whole, and let's not forget he was pickled everything. Especially those outrageous kumquats in syrup, which he insisted went with ice cream. I think it's still up for debate. He was endless sweets for my boys, no questions asked. He was racetrack days, and that first glimpse into a world that felt bigger, louder, and just a little magical. He was swimming until the sky turned dark in that giant pool, and all the missing Easter eggs and that equally giant garden. He was the wild coast, salt in the air, fish fresh from the sea. everything alive and untamed, and Christmas mornings abundant, chaotic, and unforgettable. Because with Gramps, everything was big. He was the kind of grandpa who would fly to Grahamstown just to watch me play hockey, even when I was in the C or D team. That's the thing about Winston. He didn't just exist in our lives, he created stories. The kind that will get louder, funnier, and more precious every single time we all tell them. And I know everyone here is holding their own stories. I've heard many on the recent WhatsApp group. So thank you, Grandpa Winston, for the laughter, for the mischief, for the sweetness in every sense of the word, and for loving us in that big, generous, slightly chaotic way that only you could. We'll miss you deeply, but you'll carry us with us. In smells, in stories, in those sudden bursts of laughter that feel like you've just walked into the room again. Go well, and I'm sure Tati was waiting for you with a big bear hug on the other side for the mischief to continue. And if there's a tartan competition up there, stop it. With wild shirts and questionable fashion choices, I've no doubt you've already taken first place and probably judging it too.
Well done, Kisha Reader. Thank you very much indeed from the marvellous granddaughter. And I'm going 1 to 3 in the tartan competition. 1 to 3, Winston Coetzer. Thank you all very, very much indeed. Would anybody else like to get this microphone? Would anybody else like to share a yarn? Yeah, well done. Another one for a haircut. Name? Heidi. Heidi, no name brand.
No, not anymore. Okay, I'm Heidi, and I am Wendy and Winston's niece. So Winston was my uncle. And I've compiled a tiny little tribute for him. Tiny, not as big as everybody's, but here goes. So, to Winston, thank you for checking in on me and my family when times were a bit rough. Your phone calls, your random pop-in visits, and genuine love and concern will always be treasured. Thank you for reminding us to switch off the lights, save water, and not waste food. Anything and everything goes into a pot of soup, even if it annoys your bride. You didn't mind your cracked iPhone or your dented booty noddy car. It was economical, and why care about what unimportant people think anyway? You didn't judge people, you observed, and then firmly voiced your opinion. Your younger years, you lived up to the fullest, telling us stories that were meant for rock star lives. In your later years, you appreciated your early morning beach walks, Sunday suppers, and afternoon naps. Thank you for your mysterious mini muffins, the healthy ones with no sugar, coconut, bran, kumquat, Keisha, and who knows what are, with a secret recipe that changed on the daily. Thank you for making us fresh stewed fruit with ginger for dessert that kept all the bugs away. For Gailey's 6 peanuts that she was allowed at our Sunday suppers to keep her in shape. Thank you for your endless sweetie chocolate and gummy bear supply to a younger Luca and Mia, even though it often left me very puzzled and perplexed as to why they would never eat their dinner at DGO1. Thank you for showing us what true grit, guts, determination, and commitment looked like, be it bungee jumping at 77, swimming the mid-mile mile at 70, or religiously attending weekly AA meetings, come what may. After all, that's where the medicine is. It's in the meetings, right? Okay. Lastly, thank you for looking after my 2 cousins, Tyron and Warren, and my Auntie Wendy, my beautiful, gorgeous, fabulous Auntie Wendy. Boy, was she a lucky girl to get all those flippin' roses every Valentine's Day. Yeah, that too. Everyone knows that. Okay. Thank you for walking the dogs and sneakily feeding them treats at the dinner table, when you really thought no one was looking. You walked them on the beach till you really couldn't anymore. The last few weeks and days were very tough, but now you can rest. Or chase the horses, or even win the lotto. It's your time now. Winnie, we will be just fine. Till we meet again.
Thank you very much indeed, Heidi. And yes, come along, Shaky Jakey. Cliff Jacobs, you little biscuit, come along. By the way, I heard one new anecdote today. I'd never before heard of this tea cocktail, everybody putting their drinks in. That's a bit wild. Clifford Jacobs.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Okay, I've got one incident, just one, where Winston was highly involved. I went to Maseru in late 1979. I met these guys, and where's Tommy? Over there. They were my bosses, okay? But my direct boss was a guy called Rick Lander, who I don't see here. Anyway, what happened on a Friday night? My job, which I took literally from that young man over there, filled the bloody hotel. So I did. I filled it. I was front office manager. I filled it, but I didn't only fill it. We were 60 rooms overbooked on a 248 room hotel. So I realized, okay, fine, I'm going to get into a slight bit of, crap here. But anyway, and I was starting to sweat. My glasses were coming down here. So the big news is that Maseru has a bridge, or had a bridge, that was the main claim to fame. On the main stripe that was red, the stripe on the South African side was yellow, same on the other side. Anyway, so Rick Lander was jumping that high, and this comes to Winston. Winston looked at me and he said, "You're going to worry about it afterwards. I know you." And he kicked me right up the bum. He did. And anyway, he told Rick, "I don't care what's going on. This young man is filling the hotel. You must stop that bus," which they did. Eventually, the whole lot of us, including a couple of guys from a very short guy from head office, I can't remember his name. They all went down there, stopped the bus with trays and trays and trays of food and booze. Those people spent the whole night on the bridge, pissed as a fart right through, and the following morning, my guests were leaving at about 11 o'clock, and they came in. It was an incredible night. That's what I've got to say.
Thank you for the story of the Buffalo Rally. Well done. I think we got someone else for a haircut. Melanie to speak.
Hi, everyone. When I left Dolphin Beach, everyone asked if I would miss Dolphin Beach, if I was missing Dolphin Beach. My answer is still standard. It's people at Dolphin Beach. Winston was that people, part of that people. My little green gate, the bell would ring. The dogs would come in before Winston. They'd be at the fridge. He had his little spot, and the two of us would have our chats. Heidi mentioned the muffins. God, Heidi, what was in those? You've told me. Sometimes they were like rocks. But we loved getting them. He'd come with that little packet. Winston, you much loved. He adored his family. I'm yet to see a more cohesive family, togetherness, and am proud to have known a man like Winston, Wendy.
you'll be just fine because there are a lot of memories. And
I, for one, love these clothes.
rest in
Thank you very much indeed, Melanie. And I think we got another one for a haircut here. Come along up. Here we go. Craig.
Okay, very impromptu, wasn't going to stand up. And I met Winston, it's probably 20 years ago. Was he 70 when he did that mid-mile mile? Because I was actually thinking I knew him then, and I remember him doing it, and so that gives a thing. And I met Winston through, I think it must have been Gail and Wendy from Dolphin Beach. In his latter years, I always thought this was a colourful man. I think it was at his 70th birthday, maybe his 75th birthday. There was a whole lot of slides that went up. And I saw him sitting around in a casino in their penguin suits. And I thought, wow, here's part of the story, which I really wish. I think you guys must have been, sounded like a fantastic time and a fantastic person. I didn't know that side of him, but I knew there was a sort of that mischievous, naughty, and with Wendy only. Fantastic. Wendy, when I say Winston, I'm going to miss climbing over the balcony. I'm not going to miss those little muffins so much. And when I say now that I know what was in them, they were hard, but you got some of those kumquats to help them get down. I'm glad. And then when I used to live at Dolphin Beach, I was involved in the motor trade, and I'd come with another car that I think Wendy might like, and I'd try and hide it away from her because she'd stop me, and then I'd have to apologize to Winston because Wendy always got away, and a fantastic man. It was an honor knowing him. Anyway, going to miss you a lot and climbing over the wall for those long chats. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else at all? All gone, all finished? Yes, here's another one. Come on up. Can I bring it to you? Ah, yeah. Oh, you're from the AA. My name is Winston, and I've been clean for 23 years.
Congratulations. So I received this invitation to come here today, and it said dress Coetzer, and I'm going, oh, F-doll, what the hell are you going to wear? Well, sorry, Winston, I couldn't find any tartan to put on. I tried very hard. I live in a retirement complex with 400 people, and I went knocking on doors and said, do you have a tartan scarf or a little bit of tartan? And they didn't. So here I am, dressed in my glad rags, and Winston, you were a very unique and one-of-a-kind dresser, and no one could ever dress like Coetzer.
Well done. Well said. Thank you all very much indeed. And can we now... No, we can't. Name? Charlene to speak.
Thank you. Hi all. It's just been really entertaining knowing this other side of Winston's life. I'm representing an organization that Winston belonged to in the last 17 and a half years of his life. Yeah, he was loved and valued very much with the AA. Winston was like a beaming light to a lot of people. He helped so many people. He shared so much in the meetings for people who are just coming in struggling with problem with alcohol. Winston was always there, first person to a newcomer, telling him his story, telling him there is help, making sure he's put on a group. Yeah, he's colourful, it's been said. He kept so many people seeing the light in the rooms because you're down and you're dark when you walk in there. And we had to just look at Winston and his bright colours. He's still, Wendy, though, changed, mixed and matched colours. It was always colourful. Different socks with sandals, bright, that kept us all entertained. Yes. Yeah, he did kind of dress up that little bit better, right? Putting his pants, still his tartan, his caps, his scarves. Yeah. No, but he was just, Winston helped so many people, and it was a new way of life that he chose, which we are also grateful for. For just how he helped so many people, and he still had his sense of humor. He loved life. Yeah, what else can I mean, there's just so much to say about Winston. The stories, the most important, which he's missed already, but never forgotten, Wendy, is because Winston's favorite saying, the special saying, and everybody knows it in AA, and it's forever in our hearts, is the medicine is in the meetings. And that is Winston's special saying that we will never forget. He is now in peace, we know, because Winston chose and he made peace in life. He said that to me in his last week, so that's wonderful. Wishing you all the best. We love you, Wendy. Thanks.
Very well spoken. Thank you all very much. Would anybody else like to have a last postscript on Winston Saville Coetzer? Yes, Wendy will speak. We were hoping for this, but we didn't want to push it. Wendy Coetzer.
Hi guys, you all know who I am. I'm very concerned because I haven't got my lipstick on at the moment. But anyway, well, I don't know because somebody's got my handbag here somewhere. I don't know who it is. And I don't know where it is. Huh? You all know Winston was larger than life, but he was a difficult old bugger. He really was. No. Just you wait. Every single month, okay, not towards the end now when he got really ill. He would come to my bed, and I used to get so cross with him, with the credit card statements and the bank statements. And he'd say, Angel, what is this debit on this credit card for the 14th of January, 1989? And I'd say, for fuck's sake, Winston, how must I know? And then when I first came to Cape Town, Gail introduced me, and my Cape Town family introduced me to Carol Boys. And they were having a hell of a sale. So, of course, Gail takes me off to the Carol Boys sale, and I spent up an absolute fortune. And he got that invoice. So I still don't know the difference between an invoice and a statement. And he said to me, what is this big amount? I said, I'm just trying to think. I couldn't think quick enough. And he said, was it that referral you paid? I said, yes, that's right. I paid a big referral to Carol Boys.
Lying top.
Yes. and then I had a hairdresser in Johannesburg, and he used to be very expensive. And Winston would say to me, what's this debit on the credit card? It was a couple of thousand. And I used to say, I can't remember. He'd said, was it perhaps the Spanish you entertained at that restaurant? I said, that's right. That is exactly. And you know what? I always remember phoning him. He was still traveling, Ghana, wherever he was going. And I phoned him once and I said, Winston, I need 60,000 rand. He said, okay, take it. Then he phoned me back. And he didn't ask me what it was for. He phoned me back. He said, by the way, what do you want to do with it? I said, I want to put it on a horse. He said, that's fine. I redid the whole flooring of DG01 with that money that I got. And he certainly was a very colourful character, as you all know, I think. And one thing that has also been said by many people, and I have never heard it either, I have never heard Winston say a bad word about anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who it was. He never, except Gail wasn't allowed to have more than 6 peanuts on a Sunday night. So I've had a very happy life with Winston, and I've had best times of my lives with Winston. He's taken me to the best places I've ever been. I've taken him a few, as you know, I'm well travelled. I've also taken him to a few of my favourite places, which he has enjoyed immensely as well. And I'm glad his suffering is over, because it was really painful in the end. So, goodbye, darling. Fly with the angels.
I know I speak for all of us when I say thank you very, very much indeed, Wendy, for your kindness and generous hospitality. And this has been a wonderful opportunity to remember the spirit of Winston Coetzer. God rest in peace. Anybody else? Any last minute?
There's one more thing I want to say.
One more thing from Wendy.
35 years ago, or 30 years ago, when we got married, we were looking at our wills. Now, bear in mind, it's 30 years ago. He said to me, when he first specified was that 10,000 Rand be saved for my wake. Now, you must know 35 years ago how much that equates to now. I have no idea. Maybe you financial people can work it out. So this is the send-off. He's with his best friends, his AA people who he loved immensely. In the end, they were his family. And to all of you who shared a part, from everybody, the gardeners, the cleaners, the security, the management, my family have been fantastic. I'm gobsmacked that there are so many people here, and thank you for being here.
Well done, Wendy, and well done to all of you. Thank you very much.
I think that's all.
We think that's all. We think and probably hope that's all. Well done. Thank you so much.
Monkey.